So there are things that you have these days that you can always get out of. You can cancel a subscription, delete the app, unplug the device. The thing is, when you're connected to the internet, what happens when you can't? Okay, so this story is an interesting one. There's this guy. He is having a good time, and he has a partner over here. Now, I'm gonna have to blur a little bit of what I draw here, just because. But this is a cup, but imagine this gets placed on a appendage. It's not actually a cup, but it's a chastity case that gets placed on our friend over here. Now, what happens is this is a technological one. So it's one that's connected to a phone. It doesn't have a physical lock and a key like some other ones. Now, he gives the app to his partner. And they're having a good time, whatever they're doing with it. I don't know, I'm innocent. But what happened is that there was actually a hack. She tried to push a button on the app to be like, unlock, get off. And nothing happened here. And they were like, oh no, what's gone on? And what they failed to register when they bought this device, or I don't necessarily know if it's their fault, but we'll get into consent, is that this device, it doesn't talk directly to this, like this. And it doesn't have a key that opens it. What actually happens is this device, when it gets a command from the phone, it talks to the cloud does something through an API, and then it unlocks or locks this device, and then communication happens backwards to say, hey, the lock has happened. Now, we know that it didn't talk directly to it. What actually happened in this instant over here is some external party over here, hacked this cloud and said, haha, I'm not gonna allow anyone to open the cage. And there was nothing that they could do. There was a panic moment. This was stuck on his appendage until they got bolt cutters or an angle grinder out to actually open this because of the hack. And the scary thing is the company that owned this, they left an open API. I'll go into detail what an API is, but effectively it's a way, it's kind of like a door in which these two things can communicate, the phone and the device. Well, actually the server and the, but yes, anyway, that's kind of it. It's just a door. They left the door open for hackers, knowingly, for 5 months. Okay, so this was framed as a funny story because I think we need to see the humor in it. However, it is a little bit serious. There should have been a manual override. They made a claim here that there wasn't one. And from my engineering side, I'm like, guys, come on. They like that's something that's a design flaw that someone didn't think too far on that. Because the only way out the device, if the software fails, is with an angle grinder. And that should be talked about, especially in such a sensitive area. But what's even more concerning is the bug, it was flagged earlier that year. And the manufacturer, they patched the app, but left an old version of the API, which is Application Programming Interface. It's the way in which the code communicates with the device, to simplify it. They left the old version of that available. So it means that hackers could get access to these devices and change things. And maybe get rid of the safety overrides. And the article claims that there are 40,000 devices that had existed. This one only spoke about one case, but a vulnerable server for that, if someone had ill intent, could be very catastrophic for a lot of people. Now, there's another side to this where you can say the people, they consented to use this device. They physically went out, bought it and knew that it was connected to the internet.
So, consent only means something if you understand what you're consenting to. And this is not any new idea. It's the foundation of medical consent, contract law, and every meaningful agreement. And these people, they consented. They bought the device, they set up the app, and then they handed it to their partner. That part, it was their choice. But nobody told them the chain was longer than what they thought. Nobody mentioned the server. Nobody explained that a manufacturer could leave some security flaw somewhere in the chain. They consented to the device and had no idea what else they were consenting to. And the question that I'm bringing up here is that a lot of regulation, so when you get a CE mark and you get FDA approval, all this kind of stuff, this ensures that this stuff is sound. There are regulators that watch for this because they know consumers can't do all this. The problem comes in when we start buying devices that are cheaper. Think of Temu or Shein or all of this kind of stuff. They might have a CE drawn on the device, but does it actually mean that they've got the CE mark? Probably not, which means that you're buying potentially unsafe chain. And if we are using these on our bodies, like in this story here, there becomes some issues that we are not aware of. So this is not the worst part about Shein and Temu and all this kind of stuff, but this is one aspect that people don't know about yet, or at least I don't see many people talking about it. The medical world, they've been grappling with exactly this. So there's a famous American some person, I'm not too sure about American politics, but his name is Dick Cheney. I've heard about his story before. And let's just say that he's a public figure. But that's not important of the story. What's important is that his cardiologist, he asked that the wireless connection, so the Wi-Fi connector to his defibrillator, be cut off. And that's because there could be a hacker out there that gets in and hacks this device. And this is a cardiologist that obviously gets paid a crap ton of money if he's working for these important people, but he's thinking about the entire chain of events that can happen here. And another example is insulin pumps. I think it was the company Medtronic, where the FDA gave a stern warning to them, saying that they need to get better security on their device. This was, I think, 2017, so it's still a while, it's 9 years ago. But they said, hey, you guys need to get better at your security, because what was found is that someone could hack these insulin pumps that people just put on their arm and change the settings, so maybe give you more or less insulin depending on what they felt like, which is a grave risk to those people. And doctors and regulators, they seem to understand the full picture, and they question their people that are getting these devices. They say, you know that when you get this, you are also getting this. So they tend to be doing a good job about this consent discussion here. It feels like it hasn't hit the consumer market just yet. There are many devices, connected devices, that are on the market today that are in the exact same position as our people in the story here. They consented, they just didn't know the full story that they were consenting to. And the direction the devices that are legitimate, as well as the devices from Temu or Shein or Alibaba, all of this kind of stuff, is not towards more transparency. It's towards more embeddedness. Hide these things. Think about those AI toys that a lot of kids are now talking to, Fluffy, whatever, that can talk back. What is happening there? On the other side of the spectrum, you have like neural implants, smart contact lenses, glucose monitors. Something that I did when I did a lot of regulation at one of my companies is that regulatory bodies are actually quite good, unless there's some bribery and corruption. But let's just say that they have thought about a lot of these things so that you and I don't have to think about it. But as we're getting more and more technical, we need to understand what consent habits actually are. Because you buying the device is in fact consent. It's not, I accept the terms and conditions kind of thing anymore. And that is something that we need to start understanding and accepting when we do these things. Like this camera that I'm talking to you on. This one can connect to the internet. So what does that mean for my data? If I bought the knockoff version one, did it mean that my data could go to an unsecure server? Or do I pay the extra 100,000 monies and buy the legitimate one? I bought the legitimate one for that reason in itself. And I think a lot of people need to start considering that. And I know the economy we're going into is very difficult to do that, and it's easier to buy the knockoffs. But there's another layer here that I think we need to think about. Because maybe if this chastity case was bought from, I literally can't tell you a name of a company that builds these things, but maybe a more reputable company that had more to lose, this wouldn't be an issue. Or, you know, I'm saying this, but a lot of these companies can get hacked and it can get unlucky, and even if they're legitimate, they can still. But I think this is something that us consumers need to be more aware of. So this discussion was around the notion of consent. And part of me just really loves this story because I think it's hilarious. And I've used it actually before in one of my videos. But it shows a deeper notion of what consent actually means in this digitized world that we are going to move into very quickly into the future. Because the assumption is if you've got something or some sort of hardware, you can get out of it by just turning it off. And people are like, oh yeah, that's just how it works. And the thing is, it's not. There's a deeper seated layer here. Because there are many servers that you've never heard of, don't know how they run, don't know if the company that maintains them still exists. How often do you not update your phone software or your computer software because you're lazy? Now, those software updates are important for security reasons. Someone has found a way into your device, and therefore these companies are like, oh, here is a patch, here's a security patch. And if you don't update those, someone can get in. And we kind of just brush this off. And I don't think it's our fault because there's so much going on in the world. There's so much technology. There's so much scariness everywhere that it's just so hard to keep your finger on top of. So you're just like, oh, whatever, it won't happen to me. So yeah, I think this is just a story because I got frustrated with a hack that I saw that I was like, damn, this is so unfair to so many people. And yeah, this is why this story came up, and I thought I would use the chastity case as an example, but yeah. Anyway, it is Wednesday. Check you guys tomorrow.